I've come to realize the reason why I wear sunglasses all the time. So people can't tell when I'm not paying attention. If one more person has to tell me why loquats are better than kumquats, I gotta leave the Bay Area. No one's gonna get that joke. Welcome, friends, LostScarf here, and it's time for the vlog. Okay, so, we have to talk about the shooting a little bit, just because I don't want to get derailed by that, because we're going to talk about liberalism and comedians and conservatives, all that stuff. We're going to talk about why is it perceived that there's a lot more liberal comedians than conservative. I want to talk about that, but first, channel stuff. There's Dynasty Warriors 9 giveaway. Link in the description down below for that one. Give yourself a chance at that one. It's an open world Dynasty Warriors. Holy crap! Other one is the Chronicles of Nyanya. There is this is a JRPG game. It's really cute. It's cat-based, and it's got some pretty funny writing and everything. And we have 3 copies to give away, so check out that video. It's a one-shot video on that game. I like it. I'm going to play more of it. We got 3 copies, so give yourself a chance to win that as well. Everything else with the channel is steady as she goes, just more one-shots and LPs and everything. And, yeah. But Vermintide apparently comes out in March, and also FF15. If we do FF15, it'll be on the side channel, Vermintide will be on the main channel. The reason for that is FF15's already been out, just not on PC, and Vermintide has not been out at all. And I'm excited for that one for sure. But I'm excited for both. I really want to play 15. Now, we're going to talk about the shooting, then we're going to talk about DC and Marvel a little bit, and then we'll talk about comedians. So first up, the shooting, another tragedy. It's very terrible, 17 down. You see the wording I chose there is down instead of dead, but it's terrible. Of course it is. It's definitely terrible. And we're seeing a lot of the same arguments over and over again, once again, but this one's much louder. And also, what's crazy is that this pushed Columbine out of the top 10 kill list. Like, just massacres in the U.S. It knocked it out of the top 10. That's what happened. And I was in high school when Columbine happened. And I remember it just shook the nation. Everyone just couldn't believe this. And it was just so much speculation as to what was the reason behind it. Video games got blamed, everything got blamed. Mostly video games though, but a lot of things got blamed, and no one could believe it. But then we just moved on. Gun control didn't happen. We just moved on, and then more tragedies happened, and more and more and more. Sandy Hook happens, and somehow that didn't change anything. Sandy Hook should have changed everything, and it didn't. And I cannot believe that. And then now we're where we are now, another big school shooting. But what makes it different this time than the others is it's after almost 2 decades of the same rhetoric, and the kids are getting fed up with it. We're seeing quite a few students who survived the shooting flipping out on social media, and they're like, we should not be getting shot at. This is not okay. We're seeing text messages between students, because some of them are siblings and stuff like that. I saw the one between 2 brothers. That is some scary, like, that's crazy. And then there's another student was interviewing other students, like, they had the phone, like, this is happening right now. And it's so visceral. Because of the technology age, we're a lot more connected to what happened. We have things you can see yourself to understand the mindset of what's going on to the students when the shooting's happening. And it's scary. And because of that, there's a bigger uproar than ever. And the students are, of course, angry, and they're talking, and they're protesting, and they want to make change. Some of the students want to talk to Trump himself, and they don't want any of this glad-handing or any of that. They want to really talk to him about gun control. They want actual gun control. By this constantly happening, the arguments, the same rhetoric keeps happening, the same arguments keep happening, but they keep happening so much, so frequently, that you understand how stale these are and how dumb some of these arguments are. Because the argument has been put out, arm the teachers, or get more security guards, or another one like on freaking Fox News, a judge, she's like, you gotta get metal detectors, you gotta get fencing, you gotta do all these things, like, so make your school a prison. You can't make every school in the country a prison. You can't arm every teacher. You can't put security guards at every school. Where's that money gonna come from? The taxpayers? From the schools themselves? Where's the money going to come from? Teachers are underpaid already. We're failing the education system. teachers, like, you can't even give a teacher a stapler. You want to give them a gun. Like, teachers have to buy all their own stuff. They can't get anything unless they're in like a really good school. They have to buy things themselves. They don't get stuff from the school. I'd rather arm a teacher with chalk and pencils and just notebooks and calculators and staplers and all these things for education than a damn gun. Because no matter how much training you give a teacher, and they could give them a ton of training for getting shot at, which is less time being dedicated to teaching students, you're never going to be prepared for it, because these shootings are happening, but it's a big country. And there's a chance it'll never happen. And you're never going to be prepared for it, because you're just going to be like, well, it's not happening. And then it happens. How prepared are you? How prepared are you for this shooting happening? That's just the rarity of it, despite it happening. Like, we see it every time because it's a big nation, it's happening, and everyone gets to see it because of social media. But the chances of teachers actually seeing this is so low at the same time. And so they're going to get caught. They're always going to get caught because they're on the defense. The shooter is always on the offense. The shooter is always the surprise attack. That surprise attack is always going to take a bunch of people out before they get taken out or they get stopped in some way. It's always going to happen. And because of that, it has to be stopped before it can happen. It's the concept of reaction. It's reaction instead of proaction. That's what it is. Arming teachers is reaction instead of being proactive. There it is. Proactive instead of reactive. That's the word I'm looking for. Instead of being proactive with gun control and making it harder for insane psychopaths to get weapons, they're being reactive, which is give students the ability to defend themselves, give teachers guns. You can dumb it down to a car. You keep a lid on your car. You make sure it's working in working condition. You don't wait until the damn brakes break. You don't wait until the wheel pops off. You check your stuff and make sure it's good and then replace it before things go wrong. We're at a point where people now are definitely going to be speaking up more, because this student who did this, he said a lot of things on social media. He was saying things in a lot of places. He was doing drills with a white supremacist group. There were warning signs this was coming, and no one said anything. Well, actually, one person, but they got ignored. There were warnings, and he did not get stopped. People are going to be more proactive about that as well. So there are moves that are going to happen, but gun control would be kind of really good, and we will probably see some change within our lifetimes. Unless we get shot. Within our lifetimes, we'll probably see some change, because more and more kids, more and more students are getting fed up with this. Because they don't want to get shot. And they're not going to want their kids to get shot. And the parents right now don't want their kids to get shot. They're not going to forget this. Everyone who lost someone on Wednesday, they're not going to forget this. And they're going to be pushing. And they're going to keep pushing. You don't forget this kind of thing. And as more people get shot, that's more people who are going to be pushing for gun control. Things are going to change at some point. The question is when. That's really what it is. It's not going to be... This rhetoric isn't going to last forever. That is for dang sure. Speaking of the Second Amendment itself, what do you mean you can't change the Second Amendment? Remember Prohibition? Remember the 3/5 rule? Remember slavery? Remember all these other things? This is what amendments are. They're amendments. Alright, that's enough about shootings. DC and Marvel, to lighten the load a little bit. So, it's come out by some sources that DC actually fired Zack Snyder. Holy crap. Like, there was a tragedy, of course, of his daughter committing suicide, and they used that as cover for him leaving. So that, it's him leaving, he didn't get fired, he's leaving out of grief, and they're not firing Zack Snyder, just letting him do his thing. So it doesn't hurt the movie and everything, it doesn't hurt them. But now it's coming out because the reporters just don't care anymore. They're like, yeah, he got fired. It's not just that, we're also seeing Flashpoint. The fact Flashpoint exists is a big indicator of what's going on. If you don't know what Flashpoint is a moment in DC Comics where the Flash goes back in time, does some things, and it wrecks the timeline. It wrecks the timeline so much that one of the big things is Bruce actually died as a kid. His parents survived instead, which turns his dad into Owlman, and his mom into, that's a spoiler. And that happens, And then eventually they fix time, but not perfectly, and a bunch of things get changed and the New 52 happens. One example is Superman and Lois aren't together anymore. Instead, you have Superman and Wonder Woman, and just other things like that. And Batman changing a little bit, and just other subtle things. And I think, what was it? Oh, Wally West actually disappears from the timeline, if I remember correctly. And that's Flashpoint. Flashpoint is a reset button for the DCEU. That's what's happening. And so is Zack Snyder gone, and it looks like also Ben Affleck's going to be gone as well as far as Batman goes. We're going to see a reset button happening with Flashpoint, and we'll see what happens with DC. Suicide Squad wasn't that great. Batman vs Superman wasn't that great. There was potential in Batman vs Superman, but it wasn't that great. Justice League was all right. Like, if you say DC versus Marvel, DC is my favorite, but Marvel's killed them the movies. I've always said this. I'm always gonna say this. It's not some fanboyism BS, because if it was fanboyism, I'd be saying DC's awesome, despite their faults. But no, they're getting wrecked in the movies. Anyone who thinks Batman vs Superman is the best movie of the superhero era is insane, and I've seen these people, and I cannot comprehend it whatsoever. They have a problem, but that's what's going on, and so we'll see about that with DC. Marvel, on the other hand, the big headline coming with Marvel was that Sony had a chance to buy a whole lot of Marvel IP for movies back in 1980s, 1990s, can't remember when, and they only took Spider-Man. And Fox got X-Men, and then one of their subsidiaries, whatever group, got Fantastic Four. And we've seen all these movies out of these guys. And the idea is, oh my god, Sony blew a chance at getting $13.5 billion worth of stuff, because that's how much money Marvel's made so far with the movies. And no, that's not what it is at all. It's an example of Marvel nearly dropping the ball and screwing themselves over, because there's two things. One is, this is a what-if scenario at this point, and it's, would Sony and anyone else, if they sold the IP to them, have made Marvel movies what they are? Marvel themselves had to go and do it, because let's look at Sony. Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3. Is it Amazing Spider-Man or Spectacular Spider-Man? Amazing Spider-Man, I'm going to say that's what it is, 1 and 2. I never see them. Never seen them, didn't care about them. And then Homecoming. So 1 and 2 broke a ton of records. 3 got panned like hell. 1 and 2 mixed reviews on those. And then Homecoming, of course, is a return to form, really great, but of course it's a Marvel, basically, movie with that one. X-Men movies, they're hit and miss all over the damn place. Logan's amazing, but a lot of movies are hit and miss here and there. These, and then Fantastic Four, oof. Not so great, and holy crap, that's terrible. And so Marvel themselves had to bring out Iron Man and make all these amazing Marvel movies. Had Sony bought all of those rights, and they did the same thing with them like they did with Spider-Man, we're looking at a bunch of hit-and-miss movies. That's what we're looking at. And they probably would not hit $13.5 billion like Marvel has themselves. Probably not at all, because of the way they handled Spider-Man. And the way Fox handled X-Men. Just how these other companies have handled these properties compared to how Marvel's handled these properties. You can think some movies are weak or not so great, and some are amazing with the Marvel movies, but for me, I think they're all really good. I found them very entertaining, and I like them a lot. Some I'll watch a lot more than others, but I think overall they've been pretty good, so Marvel's done really solid. So that's just my thoughts on that, really. Now we're going to talk about comedians and why it's perceived that why is an overwhelming amount of liberal comedians compared to conservative comedians, especially in politics and political comedians. Because I feel like when it comes to general comedians, it's across the board normal. I think it's normal. I could be wrong in that, but it just feels like there's just a normal amount across the board, because those guys, they're not talking about politics. They're just doing their thing, and then their politics are on the side. Although I feel like, in general, there is a push, but I don't think it's necessarily a push towards liberal. I think it's a push towards central. And my reasoning for that is because of just how a comedian's world works. A comedian has to travel the entire country, and sometimes they travel the world as well, depending on how popular they are. And they're meeting a ton of people, and they're learning a lot of different opinions, a lot of ideas. They're just meeting lots of people. Comedians are usually pretty social, some aren't, but some are usually social. So they meet a lot of people, learn a lot of stories, And by doing that, their scope of humanity is huge. They have a bigger scope of people. Because of that, just their sphere of just thinking can not only center on themselves, although it still can. Some people are that self-centered, but other people, you're more receptive to just the concept there's a lot of people out there. So I feel like there's more of a push away from conservatism towards the center. Like, they're not going to go all the way over because they're more conservative, but they're going to be more towards the center. And as far as like more liberal comedians, maybe they'll just stay there on the left and maybe more to the center as well because they're seeing more views. So they're seeing views of the right as well and people from there. So they're getting more views of just what they're not used to. And I think that would push them towards the center as well. I think just seeing more of the world, seeing more of the nation would give you a more gray view than a black and white view because of that. But there's other factors as well that would probably push towards liberal. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this is because it's an interesting thought to explore. So if you have comments, I want to hear them. Just your thoughts on all this. But I want to establish that I like a lot of things, and I try to see a lot of things. And I'll just put off the bat, my favorite comedians are all over the place. A big fan of Dennis Miller, big fan of Dennis Leary, 2 Dennises. Dennis Miller is very much he's a political comedian. He's very much conservative. He's very much on the right. Big fan, honestly, of the blue-collar guys. Jeff Foxworthy, Bill Engvall, Ron White, Larry the Cable Guy. I liked Larry the Cable Guy before Larry the Cable Guy. I'm not the biggest fan of Larry the Cable Guy. He's a bit gross to me. But I do like him on occasion. Ron White's my favorite, though. But you can't beat You Might Be a Redneck and Here's Your Sign. Those are all funny things. And when they had their show, I watched their show, the Blue Collar Show. Enjoy those guys. Those are very much conservative side things. They're very fun. They're very entertaining. But they're not going politics. They're just talking about just observations and stories, and it's all very fun. Except for Dennis Miller, of course. He's very political. I watched his HBO show when I was a kid. I enjoyed that show when I was a kid. I wonder if I'd enjoy it now. It's been a long time. As far as more liberal, like you're talking like Chris Rock, you're talking, actually, I'm not sure. I would say Richard Pryor probably was. I'm not sure of George Carlin where he was. I think he just, I'd say liberal, but I'm not 100% on him. I think he just screwed all of it. But just a big fan of all the big names and everything. Even Eddie Murphy, although he was more of an actor at the time when I was growing up. And just a bunch of comedians. I can't remember all of them. Robert Schimmel. Just a lot of names. And then like more recent, like Daniel Tosh, Tom Segura, Dan Cummins. A lot of other names I can't think of right now. Dave Chappelle, of course, is an impact. And so across the board, like a lot of comedians, and they're all over the place. Comes the political stuff. The question is, why is there no conservative version of The Daily Show? Why is there no conservative Daily Show? Why isn't that not there? They've tried, but why is there no like really strong one? There should be space for it. And there's a couple reasons. One is The Daily Show is The Daily Show. And also, as close-minded as people can be about The Daily Show, actually watching it, it's not just liberal. It is really going at everybody. If you actually watch it, it's not just about conservatives. It's about everything and the absurdity of it. And just when they're doing something that's just wrong, they point it out. They went after Bush a lot. They went after Obama quite a bit as well. But they'd go after senators. They go after McConnell. They go after Lindsey Graham. They went after John Boehner. These are all Republican names I'm saying right now. But they did also go after Pelosi at times. They did go after Joe Biden. They went after other people on the left as well. They didn't just keep it exclusively against the conservatives. That's something that I think gets lost. And this is because anyone who's conservative just doesn't watch The Daily Show. So all they believe is just all the negative stuff. Growing up, I watched CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News, and I saw the differences in the stuff. And you realize how much of a bubble they all create. And so conservatives just don't see Daily Show, and they assume Daily Show is nothing but liberal dribble that's against conservatives. But it's not. It's actually hitting everybody. And liberals didn't enjoy it whenever they got hit, but they get hit sometimes. The conservative Daily Show really was Stephen Colbert's show, The Colbert Report, because it did get conservatives interested in them a little bit. But it was a tongue-in-cheek, it was a inside joke kind of thing. That's what Colbert was, really. And of course, then we have John Oliver. The thing is, the fundamental difference between conservative and liberal, at least in America, because there's different definitions in other countries, and how I see it is, when it comes to conservative, it's looking from here to the past. Liberal looks from here to the future. And what I mean by that is, you can look at MAGA. Make America Great Again. The belief that somehow the past was great and now is crap, and we're going to make it better by doing what we did back then. You mean before women had the vote? When minorities were kept separate? Back when, what are the other examples? Oh man, I had a couple of those for the joke. But just, this is a time when things were obviously worse, and somehow they were better. No. Liberal is a push towards the future, because here's the thing. Liberal is more of a trying to diversify things, diversify your bonds. If you understand that, you're trying to diversify going forward. That's what liberal is. And that has its lumps. That's going to be bringing in good ideas and bad ideas. And it's going to go well. Sometimes it's going to go bad. Other times there's going to be some really dumb ideas. Like dumb ideas that are just really, really dumb, and good ones that are really good. And the real truth is, we should be trying to get both. We should be trying to bring the best of the past and mix it in with our shots for the future to create something even greater and create a great America. That should be the goal, and yet, no, they're just staying separate, which is very not good. Polarized so hard in the election, and not good at all. And so, why is it seems like it's more... Honestly, it's... The reason why this question even comes up is because it's always asked by the conservatives, why is there no conservative daily show? Why is everything so liberal? It's always the conservatives asking that for the majority. Every time I look around, I look at Cura, I look at other places, it's always asked by the right, not the left. I've noticed that. I think it's because, well, they just don't have it, so they're wondering. There was an attempt. It was called The Flip Side with Michael Loftus. I like Michael Loftus. He's pretty funny. Not when it comes to politics. There's a difference in how you do political humor with different people. For Michael Loftus, it is, if it angers the liberals, if they get pissed, it's funny, that's great, and it makes them happy. You're not going to go a long way, or a healthy way, trying to create enemies with your humor. Like, if the entire basis of your accomplishment is making the other side angry, that doesn't help anybody, and it's not going to be all that funny. It should be something that includes all of us, that it's all supposed to be relatable, we all understand. If only one side understands, really, it's not as good. That's really what I think. Well, as The Daily Show, it's being very relatable, it's doing things that we all understand. Comedy in general. Comedy in general, of course, the formula is tragedy plus time. That's comedy. And here's the difference between them. Look at the shooting we just talked about. For conservatives, it is, well, we're going to keep things as they are. Just keep them as they are. No gun control. Just leave them as they are. Whereas liberals want to do change. They want to control the guns. They want to do things about mental health. And that's also something conservatives are saying, mental health as well, because it's deflection, because they don't want to touch the gun part. I'm going to say that. This is a tragedy. Now, the thing is, a comedian, what they're going to do with this tragedy, now it's not going to be now, it's going to be later. They will talk about this tragedy, and they will point out how ridiculous it was. They're going to point out how ridiculous this guy was able to get this weapon and do what he did. That's what a comedian does. They observe, they find the holes, they find the cracks, and they exploit them. That's what a comedian does, and they try to exploit them for comedic effect. Death is not funny, but there are ways to make jokes around them. Of course, that's what's happened. That's what comedians do. And the reason why we laugh is because we need to laugh, or else the world will crush us. That's what comedy is. I actually looked up who was the origination of tragedy plus time equals comedy, and as far back as anyone can figure out, it's Steve Allen. Steve Allen is someone that none of us have heard of. He died in 2000, but he has a lot of interesting quotes. Another one is, humor is a social lubricant that helps us get over some of the bad spots. Yeah, it's levity. It is making us feel better about things. It's making us feel better about how screwed we are. There are different forms of comedy. Some are just observations of just some dumb thing, like here's your sign with a bilingual. He's like, this person did something dumb or said something dumb, here's your sign, you're a dummy. That's funny. But there's also, of course, making fun of tragedy. Making light of it to cope with it. Like there's 9/11 jokes, there are Columbine jokes, there's jokes about a lot of tragedies and horrible things to help people cope with that. Jokes about Katrina, just all those things. And they're a little exaggerated, they're a little silly, and it's just so that we can live with it. And comedy is that. And by the majority, when satire is happening, it is going after the establishment. Conservatives like the establishment, liberals usually don't. That's usually how it is. And you're poking fun at the establishment, and by doing so, you're just considered liberal for that, but that's what satire is. Satire is always poking fun at what is there and taking it down a peg. That's really what it is. While conservatives, that's really, they just want that to be there. They want to leave it alone. I'm trying to form a better way of explaining that, because I don't think that was explained very well. There's probably a better way I could have put that. If anyone has a better way to put that in the comments, go ahead. Another one is just where each one is hitting. More conservative humor, it's relatable. Well, humor in general is relatable. But if you're going for just politics, it's usually just attacking the left. And it's attacking sometimes minorities. There's a lot more viciousness to conservative humor when it comes politically, or just talking down. So it's a lot of punching down for conservative political humor, which is not the best because you usually don't like it when someone punches down. Well, the liberal side of things is usually punching up. It's attacking the establishment, it's attacking the rich, it's attacking just absurdities of structure, just things like that. And it's punching up, and people prefer punching up over punching down. That's another thing as well. I think really what it is, for me, I think comedy really is more central and it hits everybody. But politically, the way people view comedy, I think conservatives think comedy is majority liberal because it's doing better liberally. While as the left, I don't think really cares, besides maybe when they get offended by whatever stupid thing the right does to get them offended. But I feel like the right is like, they think it's just majority liberal, while the liberal is just more on the defensive about getting hit from conservative. I think that's the way I see it. Well, as I see it more as it's central, because it's everything. Because comedy comes from the people, comes from many people, and by that nature, it is everything. But the other thing as well, and I think this is the better one that hits home now I think about it, is comedy is exaggeration, but it's also truth. And the right does not like truth, and you know it damn well in your soul that's true. Because global warming, climate change, all that is a real damn thing. The right denies it, the left says it's there, and comedians will make the jokes on both sides of it, saying like, global warming doesn't exist because of these things, or global warming exists because of these things. Making fun of a lie isn't as good as making fun of the truth. Because you can't relate to a lie as well as you can relate to the truth. And so comedians will make light of things that actually have happened. And will be like, well, look at this silliness. What's going on here? Like, I can't believe I'm taking this long to get to this joke, to this thing, and that is the jester. The comedian is the jester, obviously. And what is the jester in every Shakespearean play? He's the one that points out the truth of things. He's the one that observes the truth of things. Because that's what a comedian is. The job of the comedian is to take things that is hard to swallow and make them swallowable. Make it possible to swallow a hard truth, to swallow a tragedy, to be able to live with it. By the way, this is like my 7th take trying to do this whole thing, just talking about politics and comedy, because it's such a big thing to talk about, and I'm trying to forge the best way to put it. And even now, I still don't have the best way to put it, and I'm probably never going to explain it well, and that's because this is a one-sided talk. That's really what it is. It's just me saying my thoughts, and the thing is, thoughts are infinite. There is so far your thoughts can go just on their own, just thinking about something, trying to understand it. You can research to get more thoughts going on. But you can just keep rolling it and trying to figure it out. But we're not alone now, are we? There are people we can talk to, and that's why comments, your thoughts on everything I've said, whatever thoughts you got, I want to hear them because I am curious on a couple of things. Just the thoughts on what I'm saying, but also why is there no conservative daily show? I didn't mention Michael Loss's flip side. I don't remember I mentioned it wasn't very funny. It just wasn't very good. And I don't think it really could be, like, honestly. But just because of what a conservative bent is compared to a liberal bent. Although I will deny the belief that Daily Show's a liberal bent. I think it's a bend in trying for sanity. I think that's really what the Daily Show is an attempt at sanity. That's really what it is, which is why it does get attacked by the left and the right. And it's become more centrist now than ever. But I do want to see everyone else's thoughts on this one. Because obviously, if I'm trying to have a conversation, it needs to actually be a conversation. I've put out my thoughts out there. I want to hear other people's thoughts. And by that, it enriches thoughts because you have more to bounce off of, more ways to think about it. This was a very different vlog. And just because I was just thinking about that, because I've seen that question for literally maybe at least a year or so. The question of why is this? Why is it overwhelmingly liberal comedian? Why is political comedy overwhelmingly liberal? That's basically the question. Why is it that? Why is there no Daily Show for the conservatives? Why is that? And I decided, why not try to explore that thought? But there you go. That right there is the vlog. I had fun talking about, fun watching and listening. That's what's all about, isn't it? Having fun. Thanks for coming by, and see you next time.